All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Imagine this scenario for a second. You've got a super disciplined 50-year-old athlete running a 10K. Normal cholesterol feels absolutely fantastic, and he's actually on pace for his best time yet. But then, right in the middle of the race, he just collapses. He's having a massive heart attack. Specifically, it's a blockage in the left anterior descending artery, which, if you've spent any time around an ER, you know is grimly called the widowmaker. It's a terrifying paradox, right? How on earth can someone who works out every single day, has zero symptoms, and feels perfectly fine just drop dead without any warning? Well, the answer comes down to a completely silent biological process happening inside millions of people right at this very moment.
To really wrap our heads around this, we have to look at just how insanely adaptive your biology is. See, your body doesn't actually care about your 10K time. Its number one priority is just keeping you going in the present moment. It is so good at adapting to internal damage that it can literally perfectly mask a 90% blockage in that widowmaker artery. It just keeps the blood flowing right along, perfectly, right up until the exact microsecond it fails. Basically, the human body is hiding a ticking time bomb, and it's doing such a good job of it that you don't feel a single thing.
And that brings us to a number that honestly should stop you in your tracks. 50%. For half of all men, sudden death is the very first symptom of heart disease. Just let that sink in for a second. There's no chest pain, no shortness of breath, no helpful little warning light flashing on your body's dashboard. Half the time, the absolute first sign that something is wrong is a fatal event. And it's all because the person felt totally fine, while this blockage was quietly growing for decades. Now, this completely shatters that old myth we've all been taught. Most of us picture plaque buildup like a clogged bathroom sink, right? You imagine the pipe getting narrower and narrower until the water just stops. If that were actually true, you'd feel your blood flow getting worse over time. But your arteries aren't like rigid metal pipes. They're more like brand new, highly flexible rubber garden hoses. When extreme stress or high blood pressure causes these tiny, microscopic tears inside that hose, your body sends in LDL cholesterol like spackle to patch up the hole. And as that plaque grows, the artery wall does something called positive remodeling. It literally stretches outward to make room for the growing gunk. And because it's stretching out, the tube itself stays 100% open. The blood flow is perfect, which means, you guessed it, you feel absolutely nothing.
So, what goes wrong? How does this hidden, silent blister turn into a full-blown catastrophe? Well, because that plaque is pushed outward, it's just sitting there like a blister, covered by a super thin skin, packed full of inflammatory junk. If you get a sudden, massive spike in blood pressure, or you're pushing yourself to the absolute limit physically, that thin skin covering the soft plaque can tear. It ruptures. And the exact second that toxic gunk spills out into your bloodstream, your body completely panics. It thinks you've got this massive open wound, so it frantically dumps platelets into the area to clot the blood. Literally, in minutes, a clot forms that's so huge it seals off the entire artery like a cork shoved into a wine bottle. It wasn't actually the slow buildup of plaque that stopped the flow. It was the rapid, sudden clot your body made because a blister popped.
But here's the twist. The plaque rupture? That's really only half the story. The other half is your genetics. Specifically, your blood type acts as a hidden accomplice in this whole chain of events. It dictates how fast and how aggressively your blood clots when that blister pops. We usually just think of our blood type as some letter they need if we get a transfusion, but it's actually in the background actively deciding how you might die. When you compare them side by side, the difference is night and day. If you've got type A blood, your blood is naturally sticky. You run with higher levels of cortisol and something called hypercoagulability. It's kind of like pumping syrup through your veins. That means when a plaque ruptures, you form clots almost instantly. On the flip side, if you're type O, your blood is incredibly slippery. You're actually missing a clotting protein called the von Willebrand factor. So you are practically bulletproof against random clots and strokes. The downside, of course, is if you get into a car accident, you're going to bleed out much faster.
If we break down the rest of the matrix, it's actually fascinating. Type O is essentially this ancient survival blueprint from Asia. It's so slippery that malaria literally cannot stick to the cells. But that same smoothness leaves type O's super vulnerable to things like cholera and stomach ulcers from H. pylori. Then you have type B. Great immune system, but highly prone to vascular inflammation and poor circulation. Their B antigens literally act like little anchors for salmonella. And if you're type AB, well, you have both antigens, which creates this sludge effect in your microvessels, driving up the risk of age-related cognitive decline by 82%. The main takeaway here is that your blood type is the environment where the war inside your arteries is actually being fought.
Okay, let's bring it back to the heart for a second. We know sticky blood makes the clot deadly. But what exactly is creating that inflammatory gunk inside the plaque blister in the first place? Why is the body hoarding all this biological trash? Well, the answer points straight to a modern habit we barely even think twice about: constant, nonstop eating.
To picture how this works, think of your body as a massive, super busy warehouse. When you follow something like the OMAD protocol, 1 meal a day, you completely change how that warehouse operates. See, when you're eating 3 meals a day plus snacks, the delivery trucks never stop pulling in. Boxes are piling up everywhere, the roof starts leaking, and the warehouse manager is just screaming. In this analogy, insulin is that manager, and it acts as a one-way valve. For the first 4 hours after you eat, insulin is sky high, and your fat cells are locked up tight like bank vaults. You cannot burn fat, period. From 4 to 12 hours, you finally start burning off your stored glycogen. Then, between 12 and 16 hours, insulin drops so low that you finally unlock those fat vaults, and your brain actually switches over to burning super clean ketones. Your energy levels out beautifully, and that annoying brain fog just evaporates.
But then, you hit hours 16 to 18. And wow, this is where the magic literally happens. This is the exact window where autophagy kicks in. Because there are no new delivery trucks arriving at the warehouse, the manager finally orders the cleaning crew to get to work. Your cells start actively hunting down damaged, misfolded proteins and inflammatory junk. We're talking about the exact same debris that destabilizes your arterial plaque, and your body just dissolves it. And while that's happening, your human growth hormone, HGH, spikes by up to 2,000% to build a protective force field around your muscle mass. You are quite literally cleaning out the explosive material hidden inside your arteries, all while protecting your strength.
So fasting cleans out the junk, right? But movement provides the ultimate insurance policy. If you do have a hidden blockage, your heart has this absolutely brilliant backup system called collateral circulation. Think of your main arteries as major, multi-lane interstates. If there's a massive traffic jam just sitting there for years, your heart will physically pave brand new side streets to bypass the blockage altogether. This is exactly how a 70-year-old can survive a widowmaker heart attack that would instantly kill a 40-year-old. The older, more active heart literally built its own detours over time.
How do we actually build those detours? Walking. It is the absolute stealth bomber of fitness. It acts like a natural bait blocker, widening your arteries and scrubbing them clean without causing those massive cortisol spikes you get from intense running. But you've got to use the FIT formula. Frequency. Every single day, no days off, because your cells need that daily signal to reprogram. Intensity. You need to be in the talk test zone, right around 2 to 3 miles per hour. Basically, you can still talk, but you'd really rather not. Time. 30 minutes, or about 6,000 steps. Duke University actually ran a 6-month trial on this and found that walking improved glucose tolerance 6 times better than running. 6 times. It trains your pancreas to operate with perfect efficiency.
But look, doing all the right things still isn't quite enough if you're just flying blind. You absolutely have to stop relying on standard blood work. A standard cholesterol test only tells you the ingredients floating around in your blood. It does not tell you if those ingredients are sticking to the walls and forming those fatal blisters. To actually see the truth, you need specific scans. The CAC score is a super quick test that detects hardened calcium. Ideally, you want a score of 0. But the ultimate early warning system is the CT angiogram. It looks deep inside to spot the invisible, unstable, soft plaque, the exact blisters that are just waiting to pop.
Which brings us to the biggest takeaway of this entire explainer. Please do not guess if you're healthy. Dropping dead from a healthy heart attack is almost always a tragedy of ignorance. You now know that your biology is a master at hiding danger. You know your blood type actively dictates your clotting risk. You know that fasting can clear out the inflammatory trash and that walking can physically build you biological detours. The tools are all right there for the taking. So I'll leave you with this one question. Are you going to just keep blindly trusting how you feel today? Or are you going to finally take control, book a scan, and get out there and start walking?